Hi, Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert, and we are at one of the most funnest times of my day, and that's when I get to interview a leader on their values and give you an opportunity to see inside a head of somebody who's pretty cool. And today we have Fred Lee. Fred, welcome. Glad you can make it.
Thanks for having me, Mitchell.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to have you. We got this set up through other people. It's even better. So,
Mhm.
the first question: who are you? Who is Fred Lee?
Yeah, so my name is Fred Lee, and I am a meta-thinking expert with a background in psychology, a former Army officer who's worked along psychological operations units, and an award-winning magician and hypnotist. And aside from going around speaking to various clients all across the world and also entertaining them with my meta-thinking thought process and how to acquire that mindset, basically I'm from the Bay Area, so that's where I grew up, and then basically moved out to the Sacramento area since obviously it's a lot cheaper because I literally seen the dawn of the whole internet age from my childhood, and as time passed by and the way things are kind of blowing out of control in the San Jose region, that's why I'm out in the Sacramento area to just have affordable living, just chilling and having a good time, and also kind of recovering from the pandemic because it took a large blow to my business during that time frame, since a lot of the world was shut down and it was a interesting life to navigate. But yeah, just aside from being someone that's been on YouTube and kind of posts here and there and doing all this other entertainment and presentations, both keynote and stage magic and hypnosis shows, just like to hang out with my family, friends, and then of course my fiance's dog, who's just chilling right there in the room as we
Wait, wait,
speak.
wait. Did I hear you right? Like, not the fiance, just the fiance's dog.
Hmm.
Okay. No, you didn't hear me.
Yeah.
You do want to hear, you like hang out with your fiance as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, trick
the
question.
dog's just the dog's an added bonus, but yeah. So yeah, just enjoying life and enjoy working out. Also, occasional video games here and there, but no time for that because I've been planning the wedding, which is literally next month. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Right. Actually, when you and I did the pre-interview, I wasn't sure if you were going to book before or after, um, because the wedding is a lot. It's always a lot of work and things happening. For those who are not familiar with Silicon Valley real estate prices, they are through the roof and crazy. And I've been here a super long time, 35 years, and it's crazy to watch the transformation of real estate. It's so funny when we did the pre-interview, I forgot. I didn't put two and two together, and we didn't talk about the fact that my business, the book publishing business, went to zero during because I was working with all the authors who were traveling and speaking at events, and all of a sudden you just put into play. You had the same problem. People weren't initially; they didn't want you anyway, physical or online.
Well, online was a interesting dynamic. At the time, online was fairly foreign to most clients, and it was only like I'd say maybe a little halfway into the pandemic. That's when virtual events and things of sorts had happened. So I have taken advantage of being in part of the whole virtual craze, but not so much because most of my services were geared towards live and in person. Since with hypnosis and other consultation, usually in person, I'm able to gauge and also help clients a lot more efficiently. Because with virtual, there's a whole wide variety of factors. If the internet gets cut off, imagine if someone were to be hypnotized straight through the screen and the internet cuts off. The liability goes straight through the roof. So things of that sort. That's why I focused on honing my business so that way when we go back to being in person and live in that sense, then I know that my business is going to hit a lot stronger. And if those virtual opportunities pop in, because honestly, all this setup, so the camera and all these things, it was a steady kind of investment to be able to do things of this caliber in terms of virtual. I mean, no, I've seen other people do virtual with like OBS because I'm aware of the software that people use to spice up the whole virtual type of feel. But I like to be simple and direct, especially if I were doing online virtual shows, because the biggest thing that I've noticed a lot of magicians do virtually is that they essentially are just doing just Hollywood green screen effects. It's not really magic. It kind of kills. It just kind of kills the authenticity of it. It's the whole Chris Angel debate that magicians have, where is he doing sleight of hand or is it just camera tricks? Spoiler alert, all camera tricks and very few sleight of hand. But I like to, with my business and just in general, being honest and having that integrity, especially when interacting with clients and delivering what I promise. That's what I'm all about.
All right. So we got 3 values of credibility so far. We've got authenticity, and then integrity. By the way, to me, is two. It's the only value of credibility that was listed twice. It's your external integrity, what you say you're going to do, and then your internal integrity, what you actually deliver. And you covered both by saying the one thing is that you wanted the authenticity and integrity of saying you're going to do something and deliver it versus making it a parlor trick. Why is that important to you?
I'd say it's important because magic, especially in the world of magic and growing up with a mom that became overly Christian at some point, which was around high school, that's when things were blown way out of control, is the fact that magicians are often associated with pickpockets and thieves because pickpocketing is a subcategory in magic that you see in magic shows, from stealing watches and all that stuff. So rather than associate with any negative type of stereotype you would see on media, film, things of that sort, I want to deviate from that just to let people know, hey, with what I do, this can be an honest living. I don't have to resort to dirty tactics or things of that sort, because even during my shows, I'm pretty upfront with what I do. I literally say what I'm doing is sleight of hand. I'm not claiming to be a demigod of any sort. It's just, this is a show that's either, if it's primarily educational, like my keynote presentations, the whole focus is on meta thinking. Or if it's just purely for entertainment, this is a show that showcases some elements of my life where I kind of mix in some personal stories. And we're just there. And if there's alcohol involved, you drink and have a good time. If there's no alcohol involved, it's just a fun show that I like to deliver and try to be as unique of an experience as possible.
So you mentioned the word meta thinking. Why don't you describe that?
So meta thinking is the Oprah Winfrey fried term of metacognition. So metacognition is the actual original term. And basically, it's the understanding of how you understand things. But metacognition is too much of a mouthful. Marketing wise, meta thinking makes way more sense. And people can easily latch on or associate that with the subject matter, which I go in much deeper into during my keynote. Because metacognition might kind of fly over people's heads because it's too big of a word. So simplifying it is a more effective way of communicating to clients and those that are willing to learn.
What does it mean? That's what I asked. It's what is it? How do you simplify it?
Yeah, so I simplified the whole concept of meta thinking with this analogy, and that is I go to clients and I take the horse blinders off their faces, because meta thinking is about broadening your perspectives and allowing you to see the greater and bigger picture. So you're able to develop more unique ways to create win-win scenarios. And this goes well beyond the workplace. From a personal standpoint, you're able to solve a lot of simple problems. This can range from, let's say, weight loss goal dilemmas, or trying to financially put yourself on a better, in terms of saving for a house, let's say, creating habits. And meta thinking allows you to be able to take that mental step back and allow you to really analyze, what are you doing in your life? What habits and what things you should keep that you shouldn't keep, or some things that you can improve. So because of the concept, because meta thinking allows you to have a mindset that allows you to see the bigger picture and create solutions from visualizing whatever, like I kind of what I talked to during, we kind of had this discussion a little bit earlier, where in essence you're turning whatever you visualize into a reality. So whatever you have in your head, you manifest it right then and there. And obviously it's not like, oh, I magically make dollar bills appear. That's fantasy, but you can create those little steps towards that goal of increasing your income just by having that mindset and training yourself to further develop it and use it in ways to identify which next steps are a lot easy. Or for some people, they like a challenge. Others want the easy route. In this case, catering to the folks that like easy, finding the easy way out when it comes to creating those type of solutions. Is there specific clarification on that you need?
Yeah, I think more of I love the concept and I but let's do the bigger picture. So when you go out to clients, you're doing some magic, you're doing hypnotherapy, you're doing a newer way of for them thinking. What's the end result? What do clients get from you when they actively participate in something like this? You come, you get hired. Tell me a little bit more. What's the expectations?
General expectations when clients work with me. In this case, primarily problem solving is the angle that I'm approaching clients with. Because with meta thinking helps in terms of the whole of the thought, the problem solving process. And problem solving is something that we've been doing for a long time, essentially ever since we were born. And because just problem solving and just how you approach certain problems and going around certain obstacles, it's never going to stop because we're always going to be faced with obstacles in that sense. So by giving them the tool of meta thinking, this is an innate ability that we all have, and it's the term metacognition slash meta thinking. It's something that we develop roughly when we're 7 to 10 years old, but we kind of at some either it be trauma or you're just too busy with life, you kind of put that tool in the back burner. So what I'm doing is bringing awareness to it, giving clients some of the tools to reinvigorate the whole meta thinking mindset, and then some little action items for them to do to make sure that it stays up and running and allowing them to be more productive, not just in the workplace, but also to accomplish personal goals in their own lives, whether it be for themselves, for their families, and for those around them.
All right. So I did a Gemini search on a metacognition just for those paying attention. Metacognition literally means thinking about thinking. And so metacognitive knowledge is you understanding that you're a learner. So what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? That's interesting. So part of what we were talking about earlier was the fact that when hypnotherapy and being in front of people is about helping people understand that they can actually help themselves. Those people who subconsciously put their mind towards solving an issue can alleviate and fix their health. Talk a little bit more about that because you had a really strong opinion about it.
Yeah. So just to clarify, in terms of what I do, hypnotherapy is a whole separate entity. I incorporate hypnosis because in the end, when I do my presentations, it's edutainment. So I entertain and educate. So it's more of a comedy hypnosis show with more, just more geared towards helping people lock in certain key points of the talk. But pain is entirely subjective, and there's numerous studies done on pain, also from personal experience and what I've seen from others. People can repress pain, and it's can be done through the fight or flight type of response where the adrenaline's pumping, and people are able to bench press like a ton, is average on what most cars weigh, off of, let's say, their child who's been trapped under it. The hysterical strength, things of that sort. There are many interesting cases on pain and the ways that people can just push their bodies beyond their limits without thinking too much about the repercussions. So with the fact that pain being subjective, you can tell somebody, hey, this is a knife instead of a little itty bitty needle. You can either really increase the level of pain or decrease the level of pain based on what you tell someone. So doctors, for example, when they either do a blood draw or give a kid some vaccine, they usually say, oh, it's like a little pinch or you don't feel it at all. And that usually minimizes the pain, because in the child's head, let's say if they're really afraid of needles, they blow up that pain to ridiculous proportions. And that's where things get dicey. So there are other rare cases. I have a friend who has CRPS, which is a rare neurological disorder that causes your brain to fire off signals entirely at random. So just random, like unimaginable levels of pain hitting different parts of the body. And it's something that is well beyond their control. That's a disorder that just shows how much the brain can do so much damage to itself. And because of things of that, like diseases and other disorders that exist, that causes either people to feel extreme levels of pain or no pain at all, because the brain doesn't shoot off any pain receptors. That's when I realized the whole mind-body connection, even though it sounds like a holistic hippie thing, the mind-body connection is a genuine type of phenomena that shouldn't be ignored and should be taken advantage of. If we got brains, why not use them? If we got these bodies, why not use them? And because two and two coincide and work together to pretty much allow us to do all the things that we do on a regular basis, with meta thinking and also understanding that pain is subjective, you can even detach yourself mentally from certain types of pain. Obviously, do this with caution, because the last thing you want is to bleed out. Well, we don't want to go too graphic, but you get the idea. Basically, being able to detach yourself from certain pain to be able to either accomplish a task, and this generally would apply to people that are more blue collar or more physical in their work nature. Other instances that are more practical for those that like to sit behind a desk and code for Google or some next secret project of some sort that requires a specific online type of entity, such as AI. Being able to mentally detach yourself from certain areas or certain stressors that are present in your mind or in your surroundings, it allows you to create that sense of focus and get a lot of things done. And that to answer your question, that's kind of how I approach and tackle pain with meta thinking.
I was thinking about this, given who you are and what you do. Have you ever been approached by a potential client that wanted you to do something that you felt uncomfortable when you said no? I don't know where that question came from, but it just sort of popped into my head.
Oh yeah, there's been some interesting inquiries. So there's a reason why I don't label myself as a hypnotherapist, and I do not practice hypnotherapy, just to make that clear. Just to separate that entirely. I only use the entertaining part of hypnosis and incorporate it into my talks, and also just do shows. So from a legal standpoint, and all those people out there, I don't do hypnotherapy. The reason why I took that off is when I considered doing hypnotherapy and I thought about it, the inquiries that came in through the website, they're just absolutely bizarre. Like one of which, which is where we're kind of going to with this particular question, is this guy claims that he is an alien from another planet in a human body and is seeking hypnotherapy for the sake of unlocking their brain to be able to telepathically move things. Other weird, creepy stories is like this one guy. He basically
wait. I was just consuming that one. Okay, I'd almost want to. Anyhow, never. I'd almost want to. We'll put that aside. I got it. Okay.
Yeah. we could dig into that a bit more. But this other one, which is probably more relevant nowadays to especially the young women in the audience. This one guy, just creepy, really, really creepy. Basically asked if I talked to some of his female friends into essentially
Hmm.
getting, basically hypnotizing them to go out with him or something like that.
Yeah, no, I don't even want you to finish that. I'm getting shivers, like negative chills throughout my body just listening to that.
Yeah, there's really messed up people out there. So I want to make sure to steer clear of that. And, that's why in terms of branding and everything, I'm really happy that I got a new logo for the business. So it really emphasizes the fact that this is a professional, clean business that doesn't deal with shady underground crime lord activities of any sort.
It's so funny. I don't know why that question popped in my head. I'm really glad I answered it. And then at the same time, like, why did I go there? So sorry.
No, it's cool. It's like because of my background, especially entertainment side of things, you come across weird people. But it's part of the job. It's what makes it fun. But at the same time, yeah, you kind of have to watch your six from time to time, making sure that no one does anything weird.
So the concept there then is one of the incremental values associated with credibility is having the intent and commitment to do the right thing. Okay.
Mhm.
So what's your thermometer? What is the right thing? How do you determine what is right or not right? And obviously the examples you gave were very clear cut. And where does it get ambiguous?
So for the most part, I try to make sure that there's no gray line to straddle, because the moment you encounter a gray line and have to do something and end up in those situations, I'd say you kind of did something wrong. So it's all about prevention. So in terms of the gray line, I try to find ways to prevent getting to that point. One instance would be my YouTube channel. I just, as a thought experiment, I'm like, what if I just filmed? Because I know how the YouTube algorithm worked at the time. In terms of virality, emotion is a very powerful tool that allows a video to go viral. And one of many said emotions is, of course, sexual. Therefore, going to the beach and hypnotizing hot women on camera, of course, that's going to make a video blow up and increase the subscriber count and things of that sort. That's just thought experiment that happened. I'm like, all right, this is cool. But then back then I was single, so it didn't really matter. And in terms of personal repercussions, there's not a whole lot. But for the business standpoint, I want to try to leverage that virality. And I have gotten several gigs and inquiries thanks to, those YouTube videos blowing up and having that online channel presence. It was just a matter, and especially during the pandemic, it's all about, okay, while doing that on tandem, I should have also, worked on the whole professional side of the business. Yes, there are elements of that where I do throw in highlight clips and things of that sort for clients to look over and review if they want to see if I'm a fit for their event. But especially amongst the fan base and things of that sort, I kind of had to filter, especially during the pandemic days, filter out who the true fans are, who essentially are the horn dogs are. So basically doing a little fine pruning and tuning just to ensure that at some point throughout my career, I wouldn't encounter a strange gray line type of situation. And my philosophy, both personal and business, would be to treat others as you would like to be treated. And that do everything with the utmost respect to make sure that both parties are, they don't feel that they're violated in any way, shape, or form, that they both are getting something out of it that they would like. And especially during my time when I go out and record, there are people that say, hey, I appreciate I like the experience and everything, but could you censor me? So I've had some videos where I blurred some people out. I do respect their wishes. Other people, they don't want to be on camera at all. I'm like, all right, cool. Just move on. There's other people that if they want to just showcase how much fun they're having, then they can do that. So I approach everything with consent. And it's a very, very rare statement to hear from a man nowadays, according to the current generation demographic. But yes, consent and everything. And hey, good men do exist. So I gotta put that out there at least.
It's actually a very true statement. Fascinating. Okay, I'm thinking about the different values of credibility. There's one last. So let me ask you a quick question, and then I've got two others that I will do at the end. Tell me about coachability. How are you coachable?
Just the willingness to learn and just being curious. Those are two things in terms of me being coachable. Just the willingness to learn and also that curiosity of just things in life. If something piques my interest, I'm wanting to learn about it. Other times, as I go out through life, I'm always finding ways to improve myself and things of that sort. So whenever there's an opportunity to be coached or somebody offers to be a mentor per se, then I'm open to the idea. And then I go in, I make sure that they're legitimate and do what they do, obviously, because nowadays there's like a million coaches on the planet. So there's got to be that filtering process first. But aside from knowing that they're legitimate, once I find someone that is a good coach and is good fit for how I want to learn and improve on my either myself or my business or anything of that sort, then yeah, in essence, I am pretty coachable, just within certain constraints.
That's interesting. It got me thinking about it. Maybe you can answer this. You and I in the pre-conversation started talking about the authority complex of accepting somebody because they're that. And I think coachability comes from anybody, right? It's just being open for learning and growing. But anyhow, I have so two last questions. So stick around, guys. One is if people are interested. By the way, stick around for the last question because this one's really cool. But the first question is, if people want to reach out to you, how best can they do that?
They can visit me at fredleemind.com. And then the social media that I'm generally most active in would be Instagram and then also YouTube. So I do read through the YouTube comments. And because the comments have been quite barren lately, it should be relatively easy to reach out to me there too. But the best, if in order of hierarchy, website, Instagram, and then YouTube.
Gotcha. Okay. So last question. Based on this conversation, is there a question I should have asked you that I didn't, or is there a question you'd like me to ask you now that you can answer?
Trying to think here. I mean, overall, it's pretty. We've dug into some pretty deep, deep.
Oh, if you're open, I could suggest one, but I just thought I'd
yeah, just go for it. Go for it. I'll be happy to.
Very interesting comment in the green room before we came on regarding how people sometimes believe the authority versus believing in themselves. And I wouldn't mind if you elaborated that a little bit, because maybe that's part of what you bring to the table. But the concept of allowing people to learn from themselves and to grow and be in control of doing that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Right. So I talked about the authority bias during the earlier conversation prior to going live. And the authority bias, in essence, is someone that you personally put your trust, faith, credibility, and other things into. You would more likely do what they say than if anyone else were to say it. So, for example, you would trust your doctor if they say, hey, you should go out and exercise and eat properly, than if you're to talk to a friend or, maybe a family member that addresses you the same way. Because what I usually see that's pretty common is that they kind of see it as an attack on their ego, things of that sort. So I bring up authority bias because it is a phenomena that does exist. Not many people are aware of it because they don't often sit down and reflect as much. But to separate yourself and your ego from whatever given situation, especially if you're trying to be coachable, if you want to learn, if you want to adapt, having that ability to detach yourself from whichever situation you're trying to learn from is a valuable skill. And that's one of many reasons why I talk about meta thinking and get people to create their own meta thinking mindset, because every brain works differently. Everybody sees things differently. And just getting them and helping them mold themselves in a way where they're able to do simple things like that. I say simple, but it may be simple to very successful people because they have some form of meta thinking, metacognition. That's why I kind of bring up the authority bias, because that's the number one factor that's kind of ruling the US and certain areas of the world. Because nowadays, whoever's on TikTok is God to them, and everybody follows them and flocks like sheep. So rather than just going with whatever goes on in life and letting yourself be swept away by all the politics, just identifying that, okay, authority bias does exist. Let's pull myself away from that and focus on life by looking more inward rather than outward.
I'm going to say thank you for that, and thank you for sharing. And Fred, thanks so much for being on the air with us and sharing who you are and how you show up. I really appreciate it.
And I really appreciate being on the show, Mitchell. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, cool. Well, that's what life should be. And so now listening audience, this is your time. Okay. This is your time to spread some cred dust. So take the aha messages that really resonate with you. Type in whatever platform is relevant for you, whether it's X, LinkedIn, or YouTube. And I look forward to seeing you at the next episode of Leaders Living Their Values. Take care, everyone. Bye now.